A story of loss introducing the fly. Katherine Mansfield was a master storyteller. She wrote about the human experience. The Fly is one of her most powerful works. It tells the story of an aging businessman. We know him only as the boss. He lost his son in World War I. The story takes place 6 years after the war. The boss is still grappling with his grief. He tries to maintain a sense of normalcy. However, the pain of his loss lingers. The story opens on an ordinary day in the boss's office. He receives a visit from an old friend, Mr. Woodfield. Woodfield also lost his son in the war. Their conversation revolves around their shared loss. It brings the boss's buried grief to the surface. The boss tries to suppress his emotions. He struggles to maintain his composure. He doesn't want to appear weak. Mansfield masterfully uses symbolism. She uses it to explore the complexities of grief. The fly becomes a powerful symbol. It represents the fragility of life. It also represents the boss's own mortality. The story's ending is particularly poignant. The boss forgets his grief. This forgetfulness highlights the difficulty of processing loss. The weight of grief, themes of loss and control. The Fly is a story about loss. It's also about the ways we cope with loss. The boss's grief is palpable. It hangs over every interaction. He tries to control his emotions. He wants to appear strong. However, his attempts at control only emphasize his pain. The theme of mortality is central to the story. The war has robbed the boss of his son. It has also robbed him of his sense of security. He is forced to confront his own mortality. He is struggling to come to terms with it. The story suggests that grief is a process. It's a process that can't be rushed. The boss's need for control extends beyond his emotions. He tries to control his environment. This is evident in his interactions with the fly. He sees the fly as an intrusion. He feels the need to eliminate it. This need for control reflects his desire to regain order. He wants to regain order in his life after the chaos of war. However, his actions betray a deeper anxiety. He is anxious about the things he cannot control. A visit from the past, Woodfield's impact. Woodfield's visit is a catalyst. It sets the story in motion. He reminds the boss of his loss. He forces the boss to confront his pain. The boss is initially reluctant to engage with Woodfield. He tries to maintain a professional distance. However, Woodfield's presence is unavoidable. Woodfield is a stark reminder of the war's devastating impact. He is a shell of his former self. He is forgetful and disoriented. His grief is evident in his demeanor. His presence disrupts the boss's carefully constructed world. It forces him to acknowledge the depth of his own sorrow. The conversation about their sons is particularly poignant. The boss tries to steer the conversation away from this painful topic. However, Woodfield persists. He wants to talk about his son's grave. This forces the boss to confront his own inability to visit his son's resting place. It highlights the depth of his unresolved grief. The Fly, a symbol of suffering and control. The fly scene is the most symbolic part of the story. The fly represents life and death. It represents vulnerability. The boss's treatment of the fly is telling. He is at first indifferent to it. However, as the fly struggles, his demeanor changes. He becomes fixated on it. The boss's repeated attempts to drown the fly are significant. They reveal his subconscious desire to exert control. He is trying to control his own grief by controlling the fly. The ink he drops on the fly can be seen as a metaphor for his tears. They are tears that he is unable to shed. The fly's eventual demise is both tragic and symbolic. It represents the crushing weight of grief. It represents the inevitability of death. The boss's forgetfulness at the end of the story is telling. It suggests that grief is not a linear process. It comes and goes. It leaves a lasting impact.